One of the questions I get asked about a lot is how to mend sportswear and sports leggings in particular. They're really prone to being caught and snagged on things, and you end up with these quite clean rips and tears. And somebody asked me to repair these for them recently, and I thought it would be a perfect time to show you the best techniques that I've found. So there will be a second video for this where I'll be showing you the parachute stitch, which works really well. But for this video, I wanted to show you how I use a chain stitch. I've drawn on a vague sort of leaf shape here. You can't really see that very well, just to mimic the other shapes and patterns on the leggings, and I also chose a green thread. The owner of these leggings wanted a subtle repair, and whilst that has worked really well for her and for the finish repair, obviously for the video it's slightly trickier to see. First things first, I've used cotton embroidery thread for this mend, and I've split it down to just 2 strands. And then I've also used a ball-tipped needle because the ball tip prevents any further damage to the leggings and makes it much easier to sew through, especially as we get near to the frayed edge of the tear, as you'll see later on in the video. To start the chain stitch, I've brought my needle in from the edge of the darning disc and up into position on that outline that I drew on earlier, and then I've pulled that through and left a tail thread to weave in at the end. I'm then going to bring my needle back down just behind that where I first brought my thread out, and then I'm bringing it up again following my outline about 5mm. I want these stitches to be quite small, and then I've pulled my thread through, making sure that the thread is underneath my needle, and that's going to catch the thread and create our first chain stitch. So again, I'm pushing my needle down right next to my previous stitch, bringing it up about 5mm forward, and then making sure my thread is underneath my needle as I pull it through, and that creates the loop that we're catching and creating our chain stitch. A close-up for you here, bringing my needle down right behind the previous stitch that I just made, and then bringing it back up again, moving around my outline, making sure that my thread is underneath my needle as I pull it through, and that creates our loop. So I'm repeating this all the way around the outline of my leaf, and then I will come back around to the first stitch, and then all I'm going to do is continue spiraling inwards so that I start to fill up the shape of the leaf. So again, you can see I'm pushing my needle down just behind the previous stitch that I made, and then bringing it up into position, moving forward, and then as I pull through, I make sure that my thread is underneath my needle, which catches it and creates that loop for our chain stitch. If you've ever done blanket stitch or scotch darning, honeycomb darning, any of those techniques, it's very similar to that in that we are using the thread underneath our needle to create that intentional loop. I love this stitch because it's really effective to the top of the fabric, but it's also nice and flat on the inside, which is obviously really great for sports leggings that are worn close to the skin. And I also think it maintains quite a good element of stretch, which is something I've really struggled with other techniques in the past when repairing damage like this. And then you just continue in the same way all the way around the shape that you're working on, and as we get closer to the hole, this will become slightly trickier to do. Depending on how damaged the fabric is, you could choose to interface or patch just underneath where the hole is. I haven't done that here because the tear was quite a clean cut and it was fairly small, and adding any kind of interface or patch, I was worried about ruining the element of stretch. So these two holes, the other one which you'll see in another video, they were both right on the bum of the leggings, and I was really conscious of not causing any strain to the stretch of the leggings and to the shape as you wear them. So I'm just running out of thread here, so I'm going to make one more stitch, but instead of moving out to make my next chain stitch, I'm just going down behind my previous stitch as I would normally, and then I'm pushing my needle right out to the side and then removing the needle. Make sure you don't pull too tightly here because we don't want to lose that existing chain stitch that you can see there. I've then brought a new length of thread in exactly the same place I went out so that I can continue where I've left off, and then I've just got one more tail thread that I'll need to weave in at the end. As you can see now, I'm starting to reach the frayed section of the fabric, so all I want to do here is really try and avoid causing any further damage, and that's why these ball-tipped needles can be really helpful. I'm basically going to continue working around picking up as much fabric as I can for as long as possible. And then when you reach the actual centre of wherever the hole is, the best thing to do is actually then use your existing stitches and work through them if you need to. I haven't had to do that until these very last few rows of the chain stitch, which is great. If you have a bigger hole, then this may not be the best stitch to use, or as I said before, you might be better off using a patch of fabric or interfacing underneath first. But as you can see, all I'm doing is just working very slowly as well. I think with stretch fabrics, it's very easy to panic and accidentally pull something too tight, and it's amazing how quickly that will then pull things out of shape. So maintaining a really gentle tension all the way around is really helpful here. When you reach the centre, you can go through one of your existing stitches, as you've seen I've just done there, and then make one final stitch. You can do this a few times if you want to really reinforce the area, so you can see I'm just going through a few of the stitches from the previous round. And then all you need to do is push your needle and thread out through the centre and to the side of your darning disc or whatever tool you've used. And that's the chain stitch finish from the front. You can see here how well this stitch maintains the stretch of the leggings. It moves really freely whilst covering the hole, and as I said earlier, it's nice and flat on the inside as well, so it's comfortable to wear as well. Now it's just time to weave in the ends. I've threaded up my needle, still using the ball tip needle, and I'm just weaving in and out of a whole bunch of these stitches that I've got on the back. Normally I would only recommend weaving in and out of 2 or 3 stitches a few times, but here I've actually gone back and forth repeatedly all the way around the shape, and I just wanted to make sure that those ends would stay really woven in no matter how much the leggings were stretched and moved and pulled out of shape, without having to have any knots or any uncomfortable finishes in there. As I said, I think this works really well for very small holes or clean tears where you haven't got a huge hole to deal with. The stitch works really well with the stretch of the leggings, and I think you can create some really great shapes that will complement the leggings. So this leaf design worked really well for these leggings in particular, and the floral pattern that they already had. But I also demonstrate this technique in my book Well Worn, and the leggings that we used in that instance were a geometric pair. So I did this same technique but using a triangle, and it worked really well and really complemented the rest of the leggings. And there you have it. Hopefully this video has been clear enough for you to see how simple this stitch is to work and how well it works as a repair technique on stretchy fabrics. If you do have any questions, please let me know below and I'll do my best to answer them. At the end here you can just see a clip of the 2 repairs side by side. So the parachute stitch in the pink thread is going to be the next video that I share with you, so stay tuned for that.